Sure, sure.
Good.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in the difference in comparison between this work and this work. And as you said, they were all the sort of same size and the same format. But what I think is really interesting here, and I don't know if it was early or late, but you sort of emphatically showed us that there's a dimensionality with this work, with that shadow, whereas here you didn't do that. And I think it's really, for me, it was sort of an interesting contrast as I looked at the work and the show and wondered, time-wise and whether you were conscious and then said, no, it's okay, I'm going to leave this. Because this one is, like, to me, the most emphatically flat.
Right.
Or frontal in a way. But here you're kind of saying, no, guess what, that is outside. There's light coming in. And I just wondered about that.
They all these three will definitely all happen at the same time. They all kind of are building, the paintings are all, especially in this show, are all kind of built up at the same time. I think it's probably more of that, like I already done that, and so this one has to be different a little bit.
Okay.
But while I was working on it, I like how flat it was. It did good, I think a nice contrast with these other ones, even the one next to it. You can't really see that it sort of imply that.
Yeah, I was trying to imagine this one without that shadow, and I was thinking that it would feel a more collaged.
Yeah.
There would be this really strange kind of jumping out, whereas that allows the landscape to be pushed back. So it's like a really strong aspect of that painting that it's kind of forcing you one way with it. I don't know, I don't even know if you could have seen it with the landscape. I think it would have looked like it was collaged on top of the brick wall, unless you did that.
Right.
And I don't know which is better, it's just interesting how strongly one action can really, direct the viewer in terms of the way they see the work.
And that's kind of, they're all like sort of, puzzles when I'm setting and making them, especially this one. It's just got that sort of, it's sort of the, how much information do you need to imply the depth or something else. And that one really just has that one little corner of a room back there.
How much time should we spend? Well, it's not a fair question. I'm saying, how much time should we spend orienting ourselves? Because I'm suddenly just looking at the shadow, which I think I kind of glanced over. But shouldn't that be maybe a light spot? Should be lighter than the other? Sort of the reverse of light streaming into a space or out of. Or
Right.
And I see a sun splash. At late day, the yellow sun going into a room, but then the green sort of makes sense. Light changes color at the end of the day, or the beginning of the day.
But that one also feels like you're looking inside, right? And so there's an odd reversal. It seems to me like the more you look at them, the more complex the space that you're inventing probably is, which I think that's a really nice.
Yeah, it's sort of.
So maybe that's more of a tombstone than an arch.
Yeah.
Steely rather than a void in a hole in a space.
Yeah.
Because the horizon line should be inside it by rights, right? That's the aperture.
Right.
Yeah.
Curve. And you can say the same thing about this one too,
Yeah.
where if it's an object, if this is an object, then the light can be behind it casting that shadow.
That's a good point. So, that's a good point.
So they sort of undermine themselves a bit
Yeah.
in a way.
Did anyone teach you anything about perspective?
Let's get back to that.
David Hockney,
Good.
back to Hockney, but I do think there is a kinship. There is a kind of looks calm, a volupté aspect to these things. They're very soothing paintings. You kind of wish that you could freeze one of these beautiful glimpses that you have. You could freeze that, and I think that's a real part of their magic. But he's got a new one where it's a new show at Pace called Forced Perspective, where rooms. Anyway, he's reverse Renaissance perspective, and it's kind of wild. And I always look at what he's doing. Yeah, it's a brand new show. He's made these little collages there, and how's the fish tank and the little cozy these things, the still lifes come into it.
Those are definitely. This is Renee's painting here from a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was in graduate school doing these setting up these little scenarios, still lives in the studio, working from photographs. And there's similar things going on, I think, in these, the older ones, like the playing with depth and flatness, trying to make it a little confusing kind of painting or confusing space. When I was doing those, it was sort of, at a certain point, it was just ended up being kind of limiting. I had to go out and source the still life materials, or just things I had in the studio or things I had at home. And I found it kind of limiting, so I was sort of searching for a way to kind of open up my source material and process a little bit. And that's when I started doing the collages, which is where the fish tanks kind of like, sorry, Paul. Pick the exact wrong place every time. And so I started doing these collages and with construction paper and just stock imagery from the internet. So the plants and the fish tanks were all just sourced from the internet. So really generic, and again, I think they're all kind of doing the same thing maybe. And yeah, from there, like I said before, there was one that had the archway, and I'm always trying to, like, these are pretty like, cloistered, like it's really like limited view. Doing the fish tanks, I wanted to try to get a wider view of a room or seeing through a space to outside, and then I think that I'm trying to get closer and closer. This was probably the widest view. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah.
You can see the timeline, I think. Yes.
So are you going outside next? Is that where you started the room right now?
Yeah, it's like I'm sort of taking slow steps. I'd like to, yeah.
It's interesting too, because we are living in the era in photography of the weird still life. I was thinking of Lucas Blaylock, and there are all kinds of photographers who are making still lifes that are very strange, but they're actually kind of usually quotidian things arranged in very eerie ways. Oftentimes with a collage element, it's in re-photography, but some of that plays with space is happening in contemporary photography in interesting ways. I, of course, back to my kind of I think about what would I like to have over the couch at home in my living room, and one of these things has tremendous appeal. I find them very soothing, actually. Of course, the fish tank is the emblem of the soothing things. It's in the dentist's office before your root canal. It's the thing you look at, and these paintings aren't easy listening, but they do have a kind of folksy quality. Back to H.C. Westerman and that interest in Americana. But what is if there is a world that you're conjuring up, have you thought about how you would describe that world?
Like a waiting room, I think, is a good between, yeah, a purgatory, maybe. Maybe it's too heavy.
Yeah.
Well, is that the viewer's space is the purgatory? Because the images look Edenic.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, I don't think purgatory looks like the beach club.
Yeah.
The dentist waiting room?
I can almost hear the sprinklers ticking over in some of these paintings.
Yeah. Which are inside, like most of them are all, you're kind of in, all the archways are sort of in a space, so it's sort of undefined space, looking out, looking through something, so.
Of course, everybody says mediation is the modern condition, right? That nobody has direct experiences, you kind of see it through other media anymore. But we did also talk about post-internet art and that idea of achronicity, where you are able to move from the Renaissance to yesterday in 4 keystrokes on your computer. And I'm just back from seeing the Forever Now show, where,
It's all about that.
Yes. Yeah. Are you a post-internet artist? Did you grow up with broadband
No,
in your
well,
house?
it was sort of, I think it was probably later on, maybe I may have been in 7th or 8th grade before I actually had a decent, at my house, a decent internet connection. I go to friends' houses and just not really understand what was happening on the computer. But I don't know. Do you have to be?
No, I don't think you do. I mean, this is also the condition of somebody who studies arts. You see a lot of stuff and you're able to time travel that way.
Right.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's a specious argument. Has anybody seen this show? Like Mama's thing? Yes, that's right. We missed each other there. I saw on Facebook that we were hours apart there.
Yeah,
What was your-
pretty well show.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot to take in. It's the word they use, atemporal. I like being able to see, them using, all the painters using a wide range of influences. Putting them all together. Just things I'm interested in. Maybe not to as great a degree as that they are, maybe, but pretty wild show.
Yeah. Without some of the, you talked about these palm trees being friendly, and there is, there's a degree of awkwardness. These works aren't trying to bulldoze you over, and there's something halting, maybe, and endearing about these that some of that work didn't have. It was a little more cagier at first.